Don't be left behind building your know, like, and trust factors the right way. Hi, I'm Wendy Twine, and I'm going to share with you why it's important for you to build your know, like, and trust factors in the right way. So let's start with the know part of these three factors. When it comes to knowing how to get people to know you, well, obviously, that is not just only introducing yourself, it's also getting them to know what you are about. Now, when it comes to business, well, that would be you as a service rep, sharing your name, obviously, and then your title and the company you work for. But that's about as far as it goes when it comes to just knowing about you. Now, if we were talking about in the area of friends or getting to develop a relationship, again, we would introduce ourselves by sharing our name and maybe something about like what we do. You know, a lot of people will ask you, what do you do? Or, what do you want to do? Especially when you're talking to little ones, right? In fact, a lot of times we'll even say, what do you want to be? It's not always what do you want to do? It's what do you want to be? Boy, that's another whole title. Um, be. What do you want to be? Yeah. Anyway, let's stay on topic. Your no factor. You know, I didn't do it the right way. And I want you to do it the right way because when I talk about building the know, like, and trust factor, one of the things I'm realizing now today is that people want to see they want to see authenticity. So, which I'm going to get into, what that looks like from me sharing with you my confusion to my clarity on this know, like, and trust factor. Okay. And I'll give you an example. When my husband and I were when we were active in our home services, we were active in doing home improvements. And I remember in a time when this started getting, really on my mind about we should be more known than what we were. Okay. And that was during 2008 to 2010 when there was in the United States of America, we had a major financial crisis, especially in the home services, mortgage industry. And I mean, it affected a lot of industries, but me being in home services and home improvements and as a real estate agent, I was really starting to see the effects of what was going on. Both my husband and I were self-employed. I mean, we were it's like we had to make deals happen or we didn't put food on the table. And it was during this time that our circle of influence that gave us a lot of success up to this point was through word of mouth. And again, which is important for that know, like, and trust factor, okay? But we were moving in a time frame where people were looking for services online if they didn't know you personally. And so I didn't have really much to speak of online at that time. And this is where the know, like, and trust factor comes in and building it the right way. Get yourself out there, even when you don't feel like you're ready. One of the things that I'm guilty at, this is going to go into the like. Okay. Let me just go the second step into building the know, like, trust factor is to have emotional resonance, like to be where you can be relatable, to have a frequency and a vibration about yourself that the other potential customer or client or patient can resonate with you. In fact, we were in real estate taught that you were to mirror your customers or your clients. And what do I mean by mirror? Well, if your client was very soft spoken and very gentle, you were to mirror them back because they'd be able to relate to you better that way. Unlike Unlike if you had a client who was very loud and brash, well, then you had to be loud and brash right back with them so they could relate to you. So it was called mirroring. And so for people to like you, it's not just having that emotional resonance, that that ability to mirror, your potential client that you want to attract, or a customer or patient, or fill in the blank, your ideal who that you're called to serve. It's also sharing stories. So going back to a story I was getting ready to get into about 2008 to 10, when the market was crashing. Well, we had past clients who were not, you know, calling us up to do services again. Now, this is in the area of like home improvements, okay? Because they were taking on contractors who had given them better prices. And of course, and I get it. I understood at the time, I really did. But at the time, I was also thinking it's going to end up costing more money if they hire the wrong one. And this is where I felt like I dropped the ball and not building my know, like, and trust factor the right way by starting to educate my ideal who on what to look for in the areas of best practices and bewares and industry standards when you want to hire a contractor. And the reason I say that is because, well, guess what happened? I remember a couple past clients actually calling us up and saying, please, can you um come and help us? Yes, I know we hired the wrong contractor. They made a mess of our house and we would like you to come and fix it. And my husband couldn't stand fixing other contractors' mistakes. And but we did what we could do, especially one because they weren't just a past customer, they were actually even a friend. So anyway, um and the way that you can build that like factor is not just, being emotionally relatable with maybe your mirroring of your ideal who. It's not just sharing the stories, but it's also, helping them to know the value and the personality that you have to offer. The values. What do I mean by values? Values could be from character to values meaning like your workmanship. And you want to be able to explain it and give opportunity for them to like you by knowing you. And this comes into building the trust. How do you build the trust factor out of these three factors? Well, and do it the right way. Okay. Now, where before I get into that trust factor, this is where I feel like I missed it and didn't do it the right way. Because what happened was, I started going through a transition of doing building improvements or home improvements, because we did do some small businesses too. But where I feel like I missed it was that I wasn't being consistent. While and why I was going through this transition from doing services, brick and mortar services, we'll say, because my husband now is becoming a silent partner in our business. And I was moving into a training model. I have a heart to educate my ideal who about best practices and bewares and industry standards, because I got so sick and tired of homeowners getting taken advantage of, or I got so sick and tired of, working with incompetent agents who, boy, that's another whole story, but um we're in the best interest of their client. Let's just say that. And I was thinking if I was in their shoes, I would want to know. Because just because you have a certain level of income doesn't mean you can afford that house. There's other ways to know if you can afford a house. Anyway, let's get on to building the trust factors. So, where I've messed up and not doing it the right way, while I was going through this transition of becoming a training company, I was literally starting to build an online conference back in 2018 when I got an interruption from God Almighty that said, before you do that, I want you to do this. And the do that was I was actually going to do an online conference before online became a thing in 2020 because of, well, it went around the world where we had to be shut up from a so-called virus that was being released. And well, it wasn't so-called, it was real, but yeah. But I was doing this in 2018 where I was going to do this online conference where I had a 5-day layout, a track laid out for each day, and working with vendors and agents, mortgage agents and lenders and contractors and inspectors. I mean, everybody that I had my circle of influence with, doing business with, that I wanted to educate the consumers about best practices, bewares, and industry standards when it came to buying and selling in homes. I had a buyer's track, I had a seller's track, I had an investor's track, I had show me the money track. And then I had the contractor's track because depending on what kind of house you bought, well, you better believe it. You better know what inspectors are involved. And goes back to just because you meet a house payment qualification doesn't mean you could afford the house. And let me explain. Let's say you bought a house before 1978. Well, you may need to have a lead inspection based on your state and county rules. It's yeah. Today's about I see I'm starting a bunny trail. I got to stay on topic here. It's about the build the know, like, and trust factor, right? Well, anyway, I had my track for each day. I wanted to build my know, like, and trust as an expert. This is where the trust comes in, your trust factor. I wanted to build the trust factor of me being an expert when it came to home improvements and real estate services. Okay. Well, how do you build your trust factor the right way? Well, one of the right ways to doing this is testimonials. Testimonials. Boy, I got tongue tied again. See, that's this brain of mine. It works faster than I can speak. I wanted to say testimonials, and then I want to say testimony, and I don't know what came out, but regardless, you want some testimonials, and you want them to be able to speak about how you were able to help solve their pain. Now, pain. Let me talk about that. If you know me, I like acronyms. So let me give you an acronym for pain. Okay. Pain is for the P is for problems that you help solve your person's pain. A is for agitations. I is for irritations. And N is for needs. So we've all had pain. Now you know an acronym. Some of us had more pain than others, especially if you have a family. They can really test you sometimes. I love my family, just so you know, but a lot of times our pain is caused by family. Those problems they give you, those agitations and irritations. But here's another way you can think of pain too, that you can help solve for your ideal who, whether family or in your business. But it's not so much it's a problem for them, but it's not the kind of pain that we may think of where it's like, oh, ouch, it hurts. It's the kind of pain that, like, I want some pleasure in life and I can't find a company or service for the experience I want. Well, that's a problem that they have, that they're seeking pleasure, but they can't find someone to help provide that. It could be a aspiration because again, they are aspiring to, you know, have this experience. They're aspiring to be able to have this pleasurable experience and they want to implement it, I for implementation, this need that they have. Anyway, I love acronyms. It helps me to remember things. So anyway, building the know, like, and trust factor again. So testimonials are very important and stories are very important. In the testimonials on, you could share whether you have you do a mini interview, like a 3-minute testimonial of you asking a few questions and they get to share. Have them share themselves by giving you a short video of how you were able to solve their pain. And maybe another way is not just with the stories and testimonials, but it's your credentials. Because we're sharing experiences of them doing business with us. But how about credentials? This is another way that you can build trust factors. Now, if you have a need to have your heater fixed on, you want to make sure that your HVAC tradesman is properly licensed, right? Or at least the company backing him. Maybe you might want to make sure that your plumber is also properly licensed. The point I'm getting at, credentials, experiences, testimonials, these all build the know, like, and trust factor the right way. And the way that I felt like I haven't done it the right way really is, yes, I'm all about consumer awareness, consumer advocacy, and your best interest. If you were my client or my customer, I would want the best for you. But where I kind of feel like I've dropped the ball in building know, like, and trust factor is that, like, along the way now, I've gone from being so, you know, home services mindset oriented, best practices, getting to know, like, trust me arena, to now where God said, before you do this, meaning, remember I told you the story about I was going to build a online conference to build my know, like, and my trust, build my trust, my authority, even at a greater level online. What I should have been doing all this time is to build a no like and trust factor. I get too fast and I get tongue tied. But to build the know, like, trust factor, what I haven't done right during this whole time is that I should have been sharing my journey of this transitioning that I'm going through, this metamorphosis. You know what a metamorphosis, right? Where a worm is turning into a butterfly and they're fighting to get out of this cocoon. And I remember as a child, here's the story. I remember as a child, and I say child, I was probably like, well, I was a child. I was like 10 or 11 years old. And I remember seeing these bags on the back of a tree, caterpillar bags. And I could see it through the bag that it was caterpillar. And I was trying to open it up, to let the caterpillar out, not knowing that it was going through this metamorphosis stage. I went home and told my mom about it. And then that's when she actually told me what was going on. And that gnat, and of course, I didn't know that the caterpillar was going to die, but I probably, yeah, I brought it to its death. But yeah, so I should have been, let's get back to the right way. I keep getting off track a little bit here. I should have, I should have shared my journey of the struggle of this transitioning that I'm going through. Um, because part of my problem of building that know, like, and trust factor in this transition is that um I am guilty. I will tell you right out. I am guilty, guilty, guilty. I'll be the first to admit it. In fact, here's a scripture for us. It says, agree quickly with your adversary while you're on the way to court. Our adversary meaning um the father of lies, Satan himself, the accuser of the brethren, whatever. A lot of times he lies against us, and you know what? He may have a half truth in there. It's not the whole truth, but it's a half truth. But you know what? Agree with him, because if you're even not guilty personally, your bloodline's guilty. And that's another whole story. In fact, if you want, go back some of my past videos and you'll probably get the information you're looking for. But where I was guilty in this transitioning is that I'm guilty of perfection, and God is delivering me of it. And I thought I had to make sure that all my videos were in like high quality production. My background looks, like a stage production, like where my husband, he works for an international ministry, and they have all these kind of stages because I've been able to go on set a few times. Point is, you know what? I'm just starting out, and I'm I'm growing. I'm on a journey. Just like you're on a journey. You'll be hopefully in a better state a year from now than you are today if you just take active steps every day to improve. They in fact there's a new book out, and I'm drawing a blank on the title, but it's 1% increments. That's kind of like in the tagline. I can't remember. It's automatic habits. I think might be it, but it's something about 1% increments. The point is, you do just something little every day to improve and to reach your goals that you want for in life, whether it's, to be a better communicator, whether it's to be a consistent, content creator, whether it's to be a better um, spouse, whether it's to be um, a better investor, whatever term you want to use, do something every day, even in the littlest tiny 1% increment. And you'd be amazed that 1 year from now, that's like, um, I think it's like 33% you'd be in a better state. So the point I'm getting at, about doing it right, I should have been doing it right and just sharing my journey, even when but perfection got in the way. And you know what? Finally, I said enough of it. I am done with you. I'm getting on camera. I'm going to share what I know to build that know, like, and trust factor. And it is what it is. And hopefully, if you stick with me on this journey, well, a year from now, we'll be in a better state. I will. You will be, because I'll be sharing what I know, and hopefully, we'll be growing together. All right. Well, I'm going to leave you with this, because if you've been with me on this journey so far with my last few videos, you will know that I will end with, it's time for you to be aligned with heaven's plumb line so that you can be in alignment for heaven's assignments. God bless.